So my name is David Finner and I'm the co-founder here at Pipeline Generator. Now, the reason you're watching this video and why it's going to be important for you is I'm going to go through a case study here, but even if you don't listen to a thing and just take in the 4 steps I'm going to go through in this video, I guarantee you're going to get value and you're probably going to close more deals for your service business. If you want this system set up for your service business, just book a call below in the description of this video. But I'm going to go through a particular case study we had literally at the start of this year in 2025. This particular client's name was John. Now, John's based in Florida, and we've worked with hundreds of service businesses, right? And there's a key difference that I noticed between the people who are successful and the people who aren't, right? Cold traffic and warm traffic is completely different. Although that might sound like a little bit more effort to start, if you think about it this way, is if you can figure out how to convert people who don't know your product, who aren't familiar with your service, they don't know you, into paying customers, you're never going to run out of marketing and you're never going to run out of leads. If you just wait for warm leads to come into your pipeline and be ready to buy, you're going to spend so much money on marketing. And it's going to be super, super difficult because your sales reps are probably going to get extremely entitled, expecting hot, fresh leads every week to come into their CRM so they can close them. And you're responsible for all that marketing spend to bring them in the first place, right? So John is a particularly good example. He's in Florida. He's actually a painter. Now, the difference between John and most other service business owners and what happens so well. So this particular one, it was 8 days into 2025. John closed $10,000 in revenue in 8 days. From cold traffic that we sent him, from cold calls. What's the difference between John and every other service business owner? What's the difference, right? There's a few things that I noticed first off the bat, right? John in particular he was not new to the sales game, right? So when I say not new, that's just, experience by itself doesn't necessarily guarantee better results. But what John had that other people didn't was an actual sales framework for him, for distribution, and for his sales team. Now, having a sales team helps, but regardless if you're doing this as a one-man mission or with a sales team, having a sales process was probably the biggest differentiator, right? So I'm going to break down what that looked like in John's example. Number 1, John obviously had a sales process. Now, what does that really mean? Now, a sales process is essentially a standard procedure on how you handle every sales call, so every sales estimate, every lead that comes into your CRM to make sure it's not wasted. In John's particular case, every time a lead came in, they would call it within 3 hours. If they did it, the salespeople would not be incentivized with commissions and other breakdowns. 3 minutes, every lead was addressed. For an estimate, it was even quicker, right? For every estimate that came in, had to be called within an hour. Now, take it in this example. You're a fresh lead. You book a call with a company you know nothing about. Say, for example, a week later, you book it and they're expecting you to show up to the appointment. Are you going to, 1, remember that appointment, trust who it is, and really have an interest in the service if they don't reach out to you beforehand? Now, it sounds simple and basic, but in John's example, this is what really made the difference. Every time we sent in an appointment, him or his sales team reached out within an hour to call and pre-sell the leads to make sure that when they did show up, they were not only prepared, they knew the service, they felt familiar with them, and they knew what they were walking into. Right? When you're walking into someone's home, you need to know this type of stuff. Number 2. Distribution. Now, John has not only a sales manager, but he has an operations manager. Now, this operations manager is actually where we send the appointments to. And in most cases, it's actually good to send it to a manager who knows where people are going to be in the area. They can handle distribution locations, especially for service areas. Now, in John's particular case, I'm just going to call L because I'm not going to dox them, but L handled all the distribution. So L would be sending out every appointment that went in on a particular location to different sales reps and incentivizing them on performance too. Incentivizing them on a close percentage actually meant that these sales reps knew that when they got a lead, 1, they knew to actually look after it. And they knew if they did it, push that sale forward with a sales process, close, next steps, even a contract or estimate given, they're not get more appointments, right? Because if you're sending appointments to a sales rep, they're not closing deals. You're just wasting money. You're throwing it to the dust. 3, tracking. This is probably the biggest thing that I see pretty much across the board for any type of service business. Service businesses especially, just because a lot of people get into blue collar work because they want to avoid, maybe they came from a different industry, maybe they're working in an office before. The last thing they want to do is handle spreadsheets and tracking and the boring stuff that we don't want to do in a business. But tracking is probably one of the most important things. And whether you're not doing it or your sales manager, someone should be doing it. Because when you track this stuff, not only for them, but we were able to hold them accountable in seeing that, okay, cool. From 40 appointments, 36 showed. From 36 appointments that showed, 25 of them were given estimates. And from estimates, we closed 4 deals, right? Now, this is a particularly slow one. This is only 25 estimates within 3 weeks, right? So I'd imagine they're still going to close a lot more revenue from this. But within that time frame, 8 days, 4 closed, let's just say. So in this scenario, he's got about a 18% close rate, which isn't even that great, to be honest. You should be pushing for more, and I'm imagining more of this pipeline is going to close over the next week or so. Now, 4 close. Now, in this scenario, right, this is just an example. 4 close. Now you're able to tell show rate, estimate rate, close percentage, cost per lead, cost per appointment. All of a sudden, you're able to dial in your marketing and get an idea, 1, on ROI, 2, on performance, and 3, accountability. Right? Because it's not John tracking every part of this. He's just giving the procedure to his team members. And by doing these 3 things, it allows us to communicate with their sales manager, send off appointments. And he's close to like 45, 50 grand from less than 8 grand in spend. It's like a 6x ROI in a month. It's so easy. Now, it's basically stuff like that that gets neglected. Now, the 4th thing I will say is this is probably the most important out of anything, because this isn't relying on John or his operations manager or his sales manager, really. This is on the sales reps themselves. Now, what they don't do is have a procedure for estimates. I see it all the time. I'll ask, a service business will come to us and be like, hey, we need lead generation help. We need appointments on the calendar, whatever. Cool. Yeah, we can sort that. But a procedure for estimates is, it's crazy to me. You'll go on a sales call and then not know what you're going to do on the sales call. It doesn't make any sense at all, right? So with John in particular, they have a set structure on how they want to handle the sale. Now, there's plenty of sales resources that you can go through. You can find, it's honestly not that difficult to find a semi-decent structure that you can give to your reps and they can use for sales structure. But really what it is a framework that they can use. It's not a script. It's not word for word, because every appointment differs. But when you use a proper procedure, it means you can judge your sales reps by the same criteria. When I say structure instead of script, a structure is, let's just say, 60% of what happens. A script is supposed to be 100%. And the reason I say structure over script is because when you have a structure, the best reps can make themselves known. Whereas if you have a script, if everyone's following the exact same thing, a lot of us have different sales styles. It's just not going to work out as well. So when you have a structure, it's a lot better. So he just had a basic structure: discovery, transition, pitch, asking for the sale, give you an estimate, next steps given. It's basic stuff like that. And that compounded over when you get 36 showed appointments, for example, you compound that over however many that you want to run. And all of a sudden it becomes a lot more trackable and a lot more scalable too, because you're not going to each rep. Maybe one's really good, maybe one's really bad. You can't judge them off the same criteria. And it becomes really difficult to scale as a service business. These are the 4 things I see is probably the most important thing for making sure that appointments, when you get them on the calendar, you actually make the most out of them and generate revenue. And that's how John closed 10 grand in less than 8 days, did 2025, which is supposed to be the slowest season of the year. So if you're going to integrate that sales process, have an incentivize on close percentage and good distribution of appointments. So incentivizing on performance, basically. Tracking what happens, whether it be you or your operations manager, and then a procedure for how you actually take those appointments. If you can implement those 4 things, it's going to make your life so much easier. And like I said, if you want this system implemented in your business in terms of lead flow, lead generation, just book a call. We can talk through it. But this will change your service business. I can guarantee that.